me today a very special guest. And he's definitely somebody who is worth listening to, which is why I have him on here. He's got a ton of experience within sort of AI space, machine learning, working in, companies like Revolut, and now he's leading an AI ML function in a startup. But I'll let him introduce himself properly, and then we'll go into the discussion that we have today. Ashish, welcome. Do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Firstly, thank you for having me here, Chidi. You said it all. So my name is Ashish. I'm originally from India, living in London, UK now. Um, Very fortunate to be in the field of AI for the last 10, 12 years now.
Mm,
Fortunate because it's really buzzing at this point of time in 2020.
definitely.
Yeah, I've been working in different sizes of tech startups. Most recently, head of machine learning at XYZ Reality. It's a construction tech company trying to bring together AR and AI. And yeah, written a couple of books on this topic. So also really passionate about ML AI and where it is right now, where it is going. So yeah, really
Wow,
excited to
excellent.
chat with you.
Yeah, brilliant. And yeah, definitely a special guest, as I said earlier at the start of this video. So really excited to dive in. Lots of experience, lots of things to talk about that are happening sort of within the AI space. But I wanted to briefly just touch on how you see, because you have worked, as you said, in different startups and of different sizes and different companies. How do you see like the approach to ML, and even from your perspective as well? Especially from your perspective, how does that approach to AI and ML solutions change from a sort of a bigger company, more established company like Revolut, for example, to maybe a startup that is, coming up, or like some of the other startups you've worked in?
Yeah, maybe like whoever's listening to this might benefit from not just getting the vantage point of right now, which is the time of Chat GPT and all of this AI that we see right now,
Yeah.
but taking a step back and going 10 years back in time when ML was still around, but it was not as cool as it is now.
Mm.
And data science was a term, right? Like
Yeah.
HBR gave this, wrote this article called "Data Scientist is the Sexiest Job of the Century." Apparently, that really got old now because AI engineer is the sexiest job.
Next year's job at Century. Yeah.
So back then, like in 2015, 16, 17, that kind of a time frame in businesses, data-driven decision making became quite a thing. So data, like the big data, like you had so many conferences around just data is the new oil, data is the new electricity. So data science was a huge deal, and businesses started becoming more data-driven, data-centric, even if they were not. Like in the end, there is some senior level stakeholder who makes the final decision, but much more than before, right? So still a lot of SQL queries being written down to compute KPIs, for example, and not just someone saying that this team has done well, this team didn't do well.
Yep.
Keeping track of metrics much more systematically. So that was the change, paradigm shift, I would say, when data science became mainstream with advent of the Python ecosystem, the classical machine learning coming into masses with scikit-learn, pandas became a
That's right.
thing. Yeah. And then coming to like the most recent developments, right? Like deep learning took off more and more. We saw like companies like DeepMind doing those remarkable things. And so to see it from another lens, some companies then started investing in their AI arm. Like we should do things around AI and so on. So a lot of companies started having AI functions, AI
Right.
disciplines. I'm saying around 2018, 19 onwards.
Mhm.
A lot of data scientists, machine learning engineers. This is the time of things were already moving in the direction where not just software engineers, not just front end, back end,
But non-tech companies. Yeah.
machine learning engineers and so on. So that started becoming a thing, and that's how this incorporated into companies regardless of sizes. Most recently, AI is now becoming commoditized. So AI exists as a commodity. Now we need people who can handle these fancy LLMs and so on. So now
Mm.
is the time when, yeah, it's going really far where AI could be multiple functions, not just one, and it's one of the main selling point for many companies. A and B, AI is becoming also like enabler in different functions. So
Yeah.
even in my current company, I always say AI is not just within the product, but it should also be within the company, in the sense even a finance guy could be using AI models or services to become better at their job. Even the HR lady could use the relevant LLMs and so on. So
Yeah.
I think that kind of a paradigm shift right now. So it has, again, having had the benefit of seeing this transition, it's really interesting how this has impacted. And to make that comparison between small and medium, anything that disrupts, like any disruption that happens in industries, obviously hits the small industries first. So the
Mhm.
small industries have always been the first to adapt, and then the big players slowly, catch up. So now you can see Microsoft, all the big companies, even IBM, of course Google and Meta, they are also catching up to becoming the AI pioneers. But I would still say, if you want to read the current pulse of where things should be going, you just go and check what the latest fanciest tech startups that are backed by the biggest VCs, what is the common theme amongst them, what are they doing right now.
Yeah,
So
very interesting. No, I mean, you touched on a lot of different things there. I mean, I think I agree with you. You know, back in those days, it was sort of kind of data science was more the term. Nowadays, AI is more of the term. And really, when a lot of people say AI, they mean generative AI as well. So there's also that kind of distinction there. But as you said, it's really like these sort of nimble startups and tech companies are kind of the ones that are leading sort of the cutting edge, and then the biggest companies like the Googles and of the world are sort of trying to follow in that direction as well. But also it's interesting, and I was trying to say this earlier about sort of how the non-tech companies as well, like like the banks,
yeah,
etc., also sort of incorporating AI. I mean, if you think about Revolut, for example, where you worked in, that is a financial company at the end of the day, but perhaps they view themselves even maybe as not just a financial company, but
that's more than like,
financial
that's
tech.
more in the fintech side. So but even
Mhm.
you're right about legacy banks. JP Morgan, Chase, they have their
That's
own
right.
entire branch of software engineers and machine learning engineers. And I wouldn't be surprised all the legacy banks having their own LLMs in the future. Who knows?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I'm saying. AI is becoming commoditized now. So everyone
That's
can.
right. I think that's the key term. It's getting commoditized. No, absolutely. Moving on, I think in terms of I mean, we when you're building sort of AI solutions, there's usually different stakeholders involved. You have the technical team, the machine learning engineer, the data scientist, who kind of have their own interest. They want to build a really cool model solution that has this type of accuracy, or meets these sort of metrics. And then you do have this the business kind of stakeholders who are more interested in maybe cost savings or revenue generation.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how do you sort of balance that in your current role, with what the business wants versus actually what the sort of the other sort of technical stakeholders want? How do you kind of, because you're leading that ML and AI function,
Yeah.
so you're kind of in the bridge between sort of the business and the technical side. So I was quite interested to see how you kind of went about that.
This is like an old, like age-old tussle between those two. The what, which is the stakeholders, they ask the what, they answer the what, like what do we need, and then the technical guys or girls who say the how, like how do we implement that. That's like, it's a classic tussle between these two worlds. I would say, from my experience, like even I, in my early days, as just like a junior machine learning engineer or something, I was more blindly the how person, regardless of the what. So I think I have, like, people who start off technical, who work in businesses, I think they get a more mature sense of what I'm doing is really relating to the business. So I think
Yeah,
that kind of a person is the most reliable person who has experience of the technical task, how to implement something, but also has worked enough with the business to generate revenue or to generate value from this.
that's right. Yeah.
I am basically talking about those like PM heroes, like product managers
Mm.
who have seen the technical world and have also delivered value to businesses. That's like the golden the
That's the sweet spot. Yeah.
sweet spot between those two worlds. And then there are stakeholders, right? I would say one thing for the technical folks, right? Never undermine the stakeholders, because they are at the extreme end. They are facing the fire from the outside world to
Mm,
get to where we are, from where we are to where we want to be. And it's it can be a lot of over, like, hyping of the AI leads to inflated expectations. So they could have a lot more in their mind, and that can be
that's
done
right.
as compared to what can be done. Sometimes they can be like way off in terms of what they want, but they still have the best intuition just for the health of the business in their minds. So I would say there's this sweet spot person, and then I would say never underestimate the stakeholders' opinion, because as technical people tend to do, uh, we would like to always object and like put forth our own opinion. So, and within the world of AI, I would also say like the inflated expectation is a reality. So
Mm,
all of
mm.
these big short companies, they have their amazing demos, which is a demo, and it is geared towards certain things, right?
Yeah.
But when you're building a AI product for a specific use case, like for my example, construction tech,
Yeah.
um, good luck finding a OpenAI equivalent LLM which works well with construction data right now, because
Mm,
someone has to go in and work well within the bounds of construction environment, and like work with all of the variables, work with the understanding of schedules, budgets, 3D models, and so on.
mm.
So yeah, inflated expectations, the hero product manager, and do not underestimate your stakeholders.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a really great response. And I think you're right. You know, it's those, because I started off technical as well, and then now kind of working in business from a consultant perspective. And I see kind of, just, that we have to understand that every stakeholder is important in this kind of mission, and, figuring out how to align what you're building from a technical perspective to those business objectives is extremely important. And it's not always an easy thing, but I do think when you have that feedback mechanism in sort of throughout this iterative process,
Yeah,
it always helps. And especially that should be the first thing that you do before you go ahead and start, building and connecting to any sort of APIs or building your own model, whatever it is that you're doing. But
yeah.
so it's a very interesting old age, as you said, tussle that's
Mhm.
been around. You're speaking about construction tech, and that's you're quite right. I mean, that's a very sort of very domain, I mean, heavy kind of industry, and and it's there's 3D diagrams, just a different kind of data that
Yeah,
you typically will work with, and even coming from a sort of Revolut, where you're working with more sort of structured data, conventional data, tabular data, and then now you're going to this sort of very different type of data. So I guess that kind of leans into my next question as well, in terms of data. What when it comes to processing data and building AI solutions, like what are some of the things that you always consider? I know there's obviously data privacy, and
yeah,
sometimes you want that data. That data is in different formats, as we've been speaking about, and then sometimes you're thinking about real time data processing as well when that AI solution is in production. How do you kind of what's your mindset when it comes to dealing with data when you're building sort of AI solutions?
that's a whole broad world. Like first,
Open a can of worms.
yeah. So I mean, just on a very high level, firstly, for any company, I think now it's understood that you need a whole lot of data engineers, data
Mm,
pipeline engineers,
that's
data
right.
data analysts, before you get into data scientists or even machine learning engineers.
That's right.
Why do you need so many people of that nature? Is because just like handling data is not an easy task, because of this, like, because data represents us, like at the very core it is coming from human beings at the very core,
Mm,
and human beings
mm,
are chaotic, random. Data captures that chaos and the randomness, and hence you need someone to control all of that chaos and put that in structure. And then it's like in a factory where you're making cupcakes or something, there has to be a person who like makes sure that the thing falls into this holder in a correct
Perfectly,
motion.
perfectly.
Yeah, because the actual paste is all random, it could go anywhere, and so on.
That's right.
So you need those people, right? So it begins there, and then I would straight go to what do you want to do with this data. So it could be just data handling for the purpose of data handling, as in we are getting some data, we don't know what to do with this right now, just get it and store it somewhere. And that's a whole data engineering and data pipelining and discipline discussion where you need to make good design decisions around, do we want to store this in a MongoDB because this is unstructured? Do we want to store this in a PostgreSDB because this is structured, and so on? How do we want to define the schemas? Do you want all the data? Do you not want all the data? You
That's
mentioned
right.
you mentioned privacy, so having a clear view of what's PII, what's non-PII, how do you distinguish them so that your queries can be easily disambiguated between those two worlds? Because in
Yeah.
future, someone audits, they should know that your ETLs that went downstream, they captured only the non-PII data in your,
Right.
let's say, analytics data lake.
Mm.
All of this is a lot of like, it's not possible to speak about all of that, but then I'll cut to, let's say you have a particular use case in mind with this data. You want to build like a face detection system or like face recognition system, and you have image streams coming over. Then that becomes so the stored data is your starting point as a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. And then you start thinking about the entire flow. And the first thing I always think in this regard is, imagine I have built a model. Now I have uploaded this model or I have deployed this model on a cloud service. In runtime, what should this model get? So
Yeah.
I work backwards, as you mentioned. Working backwards is really important to already foresee how this model should expect data, and then make sure that in training your model, you get the data in the exact same format. This again sounds easier, is tough.
That's not.
Then I have to say DAGs, which is direct acyclic graphs, which is a series
Yeah.
of sequential operations, kind of, where you load that data somewhere in batches, feed that to train your model, run experiments, see what works for you, what doesn't, make data manipulations on the fly, like augmentations and so on.
Yeah.
There's
That's
a
right.
whole, like, this is just image. Now, if we go to audio, if we go to text, if we go to tables,
The rules change a
it's
little
the
bit.
whole, yeah,
Yeah.
all of these details lie in that territory. And I will say, data scientists, machine learning engineers, even AI engineers, honestly, I have been almost all of them. I will say still like 70 to 80% genuinely of the technical work is, you cannot tell me that it's not just working with the data.
That's right. That's
Just
right.
working with the data in some
Yeah.
way or the other. Either you are building DAX, either you are writing ETLs or SQL storage, either you are exploring on a Jupyter notebook, but you are working with data. The fancy bit of training models is really the smallest part. And because basically that's the part where the cupcakes are ready, they are baked, and now you're just packaging them, kind of.
That's
It's
right.
that
That's
small
right.
of a job in the end,
Yeah.
which is given the most credit or the most glory or fame in those research papers.
It's a very fascinating. No, thank you, Ashish. Yeah, it's a very fascinating thing because I think when you think about ML research and AI research, there's not a lot of attention often given to data. It's mostly focused on the algorithms, making the techniques better. But then when you go into kind of the sort of the enterprise world, the commercial world, the business world, where you want to bring AI solutions
Yeah,
into real life, and it's not just about beating another AI model on a bench on the benchmark
I
board.
feel like the system is broken in that sense, because in academia you start with data sets which is static.
Yeah,
They are clean, or even if they're not clean, someone wrote a first research paper where they mentioned how to process that data set, and everyone is
yeah,
just copy pasting. And every bit of the paper is all about just training models. But in real world, training models is the last, like the least important thing.
yeah.
The whole thing is about, I told you about chaos, randomness in
That's right.
So that's the biggest effort, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The data is extremely important when it comes to bringing these things into real life, and we could talk about that all day long. Conscious of time, I think that's a nice segue to think. When it comes to for businesses and organizations, often where they have to start when they want to bring in, and it's my experience as well, I've seen this, when you want to bring in AI solutions into your organization, you often have to start with your data. Like, are you collecting the right data? Is your data maturity level at a good place for you to actually bring in AI solutions or start a use case? So talk about kind of the advice you would give, and again, sometimes you have data sort of scattered across different departments, for example, in different formats, and you have to pull that data together in sort of a data warehouse or something. Talk about the advice you would give to business leaders, maybe starting with data as a kind of with that in mind, with starting with data in mind. How can business leaders bring AI into their organization or company?
Yeah, I mean, this is a this is a question I think by now almost all businesses are going after, right? Especially with today's AI. I would say Revolut has a few values. It's well known, public information. One of them, it's like get it done, never settle. One of them
Yep.
is think deeper, and I think that value is what I am trying to relate to here, which is business leaders tend to typically throw all of their data as it exists into one of these LLMs today. Think deeper here would refer to take a step back and really think about what problem are you trying to solve with that data. Like, even if you're just, hey, I want a customer chatbot, just throw all of our data into the LLM and ask it to behave like a customer chatbot. Will it work? I don't think it will work.
Yeah.
So have technical people, right, assign this with good enough leeway of an R&D task, right? And define the problem very well. What do you want to achieve? That's one. There is a saying, premature optimization is the source of all evil. So when technically someone goes for all of this data, you tend to just take all of this in, make the silliest kind of transformations, or store them in the worst way possible, and so on. So I would say no need to rush to somehow get to a flaky solution, because I'm saying this because I am seeing a lot of thin wrapper pieces of work which do not really translate well. I'll give you one example. Even yesterday, I was checking out one code repository, read their lips or something like that .com, and it showed a nice demo. I tried it out on a separate video of a YouTube video which I watched and didn't have audio. It didn't work at all. I'm seeing a lot of such products, and from my intuition is it's a result of businesses trying to rush into getting something out which is AI. So I would say, like, really define the problem and have something simple. So you said you have a lot of data sources lying around. Start with one source, validate your hypothesis, then build a proper data lake that can take all of the data sources together and so on. As
Wow.
opposed to, yeah, again, like just copy, just because LLM, just because GPT-4o, well, now we have O1, but just because GPT-4o had a token size of context window of 128K tokens doesn't mean you can shove in all of your data and hope it to happen, because it's not magic. It's
Yeah.
purely an auto regressive algorithm. So
Hmm.
I would say think deeper, do not rush for quick wins, but try to solve a predefined problem systematically. And I think there is a lot of good examples as well where businesses are trying to organically grow. You might not even need LLMs when you say AI. You might need something much simpler.
That's
But
very true.
it's just the mindset of problem solving and AI being used as a tool, as opposed to AI being the end. And I know there's a temptation of using AI for anything right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, this is so wow. Great response, Ashish. I think, when I talk about AI strategy as well, when I speak to clients, or I always try to always encourage a discovery period where you're actually assessing whether it's a process you're trying to improve, or a product you're trying to improve, or a service you're trying to enhance, you're assessing all these different points in your business, and you're trying to think about where there's actually a room for optimization. So it's thinking about the problem first, and then also even thinking about the potential benefits of solving this problem. Are the benefits actually worth it? Is there a more cost-effective way of solving this problem than using AI? Or what is the sticky plaster solution? And is it just as effective if that's the case? So it's getting them to think about, when is it worth using AI, when it's not worth using it. And obviously you can't do that without first really understanding the problem. So I love that value that you pointed out about think deeper. I think I'm going to start using that one moving forward. It's pretty good. We're just out of time here. I guess if I'll leave with one last question here. You think about the future of AI. There's obviously a lot of things happening. There's the EU AI Act that has just come out not too long ago. There's California that's got their own bill, Colorado in the States. AI regulations are coming in and out, coming out from different parts of the world. There's obviously, the world of generative AI, and we all know that's not the only type of AI. There's other aspects of AI, but that's also kind of taking the world by storm. Multimodality, small language models. There's just so many things. But where do you see what's the one thing you would say that you think is going to really shape the future of AI, say over the next, 5-10 years?
I would be a visionary to be able to foresee that, but I'll say, like, really immediate term, I feel there is a race going on right now, which is both good and bad, of LLMs getting out more and more stuff. If you think about what is underpinning all of this LLM era, at the architectural level, there is this architecture called transformers, which was invented in 2017 at Google, 7 years ago. I hope more research keeps getting done on a more foundational transformation of, let's see if there are we clearly haven't cracked the code of like AGI or something, right? So there will be, I don't know if you know, Ilya Sutskever opened his own company, which is valued at 5 billion today, like starting already. And he's aiming for safety base, but still the goal is AGI. So this has given, this meaning the LLM era has given humanity the hope, so to speak, hey, we can perhaps get to AGI. I am personally, just purely personally, a believer of, we first need to understand human psychology to ever get closer to even AGI, which we have fully. So we are far away from that, from my personal opinion, but that's where the trend is going to go to. So AGI, the pursuit of AGI will lead to development of more products. So like OpenAI's aim might be AGI, but what it ended up developing is, firstly, it crushed so many startups because it made it so simpler, and it led to creation of most tech startups. So that's one. And the second thing is, what used to be this web or the software era, where every business came to software, right? Like restaurants started having websites, like everything came to the software 1.0, and that's a term framed by Andre Karpathy. So software 2.0,
software 2.0,
I think every business will look like they are, like, something AI of them exists in this world. So something on the web exists for every business, something on AI will exist. And last thing I will say, here I agree with Chamath, who hosts the All In podcast. What he says is like, like Coca-Cola is that product which really, like, sugary drinks have been since ever, like, and so on. But there has to be that one product that really captivates the entire market. So the ingredients are around us, I would say, almost. But now the next few years will also be about finding that product or some products which become the AI hub for everything. So it's very vague, I know, but I mean, we are living in vague times. Like, we do not know. The people who are speaking about, like, at the forefront of all of this, I am pretty sure even they do not know what's going to happen next. Because it's beyond each individual person, because it's a competition that's fostering like extraordinary feats from different individuals, different organizations. So Man, I'll only say this, like, this is a fascinating time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Who knows what we are gonna see next? In 2 years, we have seen a lot of changes. I'm also almost scared. Good on some parts of this regulation happening, bad on some unnecessary parts. But yeah, it's a very interesting time. I'm actually
Absolutely.
glad that this year was a full-on election year, but we didn't see that much of a problem with deepfake technology and so on. So on
Hmm.
average, I believe humanity will do good, but AI will skyrocket only in this decade for sure.
Wow. Well, you heard it here first, guys. It's there's essentially the answer is there's a lot to come, and we're kind of living in that sort of change, rapid change.
Yeah,
We're living in that moment within the field of AI. Well, thank you very much, Ashish. This has been really, really fun. It's been great to kind of dive into your background and sort of your thoughts and pieces and on AI and machine learning in general. Yeah, hopefully we get to do this again sometime. I think it's
absolutely.
I had loads of fun kind of just learning from all of the stuff you were saying, and I hope the guys watching this, people watching this, did the same as well. Okay, perfect. So I will leave you guys on there, I'll catch you guys. Myself and Ashish are gonna stay back and do some kind of final admin closing stuff. But yeah, you guys, thank you for watching, and see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.